Hello, welcome to Model Kit Stuff. It's First Impressions Day today, and we're looking at a brand that I have never had before, Armoury Models. And look at this beautiful interwar fighter aircraft, the Fairey Flycatcher. Let's take a look. Welcome to Model Kit Stuff, where you'll find all of this. Fairey Flycatcher, never heard of that before, but it's a Fairey aircraft and I'm on a mission to build as many Fairey models as I can. Armoury Models, brand I've never come across before. This is going to be fun. Welcome to First Impressions. Right then, Armoury Models, they're a Ukrainian manufacturer. I have not come across them before. I don't know much about them. I don't really know what to expect in here, but what I can tell you is we've got in here a British interwar aircraft carrying fighter, very similar to the Bulldog in both appearance and time period and technology. Yeah, we've got this lovely little kit. I've picked this up in the UK, so it's readily available. It's not something that's difficult to find just because it's Ukrainian. Yeah, nice glossy box, lovely artwork on the top, very realistic image of the Fairey Flycatcher appearing to have taken off from an aircraft carrier, not sure which one, Glorious possibly. So yeah, very nice. Lovely glossy box top. We've got 3 ships logos there, which suggests we might have 3 paint schemes. The side of the box tells us pretty much what we've got on the front, but also gives us a kit number of 48002. Now the 48 I'm guessing is the scale, 1 to 48, and 02 I'm guessing is the kit release number, so their second 1 to 48 scale. Now it tells us it's a late version. I don't know anything about the aircraft, so I can't tell you what the differences are. Then on this side here, we've got 2 paint schemes, an HMS Furious 1932 to 33 and HMS Glorious 1932. Both overall silver, which was the paint scheme into war. They became camouflaged shortly after the outbreak of the Second World War, aircraft carrying aircraft. Yeah, I mean, paint schemes aren't massively different. One red, one yellow. Yeah. And on this side, it tells us we've got a scale model kit, contains a set of plastic and photo-etched parts for 1 model assembly, decals and instructions, glue and paint not included, recommended for children of age 14 and over, and not for under 3s, and then contact information. So, all good. Let's take a look inside. Well, actually, let's deal with packaging first. We've got quite a flimsy lid, but it really doesn't matter because it's just covering this box. So, yeah, a really nice, sturdy, corrugated box, which is top opening. And then when we get inside, we've got all sorts of goodies. So we've got a Ziploc bag, which has photo etching and decals in. We have another Ziploc bag with all the plastic sprues in. We have a small Ziploc bag with what appears to be resin parts. and some of which are 3D printed actually, and then another bag with more 3D printed parts as well. Paint instructions and build manual, so plenty to look at, but let's take a look at the instructions first. So our instructions are black and white A4, they're not stapled. We've basically got an A3 sheet that's folded in half, and then an A4 sheet loose inside is how it's been done. So it's, you know, cost effective, I think we'll call it. At the top there, it tells us that we've got a British made mid-war Fleet Air Arm fighter late version, the Fairey Flycatcher. Gives us our scale, our model number, plastic injector kit with photo-etched and resin parts. Copyright 2020, so suggests the kit is 4 years old. And then we've got a little note, special thanks to Mr. Ilya Sobolev for subject research, reference consultation and technical support during kit's development and pre-production screening. Okay. And then we've got this logo here of a chap hammering out something on an anvil. Then we've got a sprue map. So that's telling us we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sprues. We've got 1, 2 frets of etch, what looks to be an acetate film, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different cast blocks of resin parts. So all very nice, lots of little bits and pieces in here. And we've got multiples of several of these. You can also see all the numbers, so it's easy to cross-reference where things are. Sometimes it doesn't matter how hard you look, you can't find them, so being able to look on here can be quite an helpful process. There are 1 or 2 greyed out parts I'm noticing. There's a propeller there, what looks like certain flaps there, and you can see there's similar ones here that aren't greyed out. So I'm assuming the greyed out parts aren't required, although it doesn't tell you that here. But clearly they have developed the kit with variations in mind. Always a good thing. So interestingly, and perhaps rather unusually, we're starting manufacturing the kit, bringing the kit together with the engine. So step 1, rather unusually, is pulling together the engine. And what we've got is we've got this resin engine mount here, where the with the pistons going around the outside in 2 rings. So it's actually quite a big chunky engine. So yeah, I don't know whether that made it very powerful or what the thinking was behind that. I'm sure there was. So it says here on step 3, valve pushers to be made of wire 0.2 millimeters, length 7 millimeters. So you need to make your own push rods if you wish. It's always options. Shame they didn't put a bit of wire in. So because these are showing us solid, I'm guessing these are all resin at this point. Putting the push rods in will be fiddly work, I would say at the least, but as long as they've got all the locations in, we should be okay. Then we've got pipe work going at the back. So where it says R3, I'm guessing that is step 3, or is it? Oh no, it's referring to the parts. R3 is a resin part, so it is actually a part number. Okay. So I hadn't noticed, but all the kit number, all the part numbers appear to be a letter and a number, which, you know, What threw me is, on first glance, some of them just have a number. So I'm guessing an R is resin, and then if it's a number without an R, it's plastic, and then if it's a black number, it's etch. So there isn't a key to tell you all this, so as you can see, you very quickly work it out, but work it out you need to. Step 7, and we seem to be building up the start of the interior framework. That carries on in step 8. Step 9, we're building up what looks to be ammunition boxes and feeds to me. Then we're adding what, compass, maybe, don't know. In step 10, building up the steering linkage. We've got some photo etch going in there, and we had some photo etch going in there, so I think that's the first of the photo etch. Step 12, continuing this with another, well, we're installing step 11 into there. Step 13, and we're adding some more photo etch, this time onto the pedals. More photo etch construction for detailing the parts. Then we're adding the seat. I don't see there's a number to that. I'm sure we can identify the seat, but it's just appeared there. Then we're building up a combination of photo etch and printed film, I think, to make the dials, and installing that. There is some conversation here in English, giving you some additional information. So it says to make part 8 sliding, use parts 36 and 38 as guide rails. To make part 9 sliding, use part 36 and 38 as guide rails. So what is part 8 and part 9? I'm not quite sure what that means. 9, it's pointing to 9 there. There's a little line here. Let's see if we can bring this up. And there's no number to it. And when you look here, there's a little line and it says 9. So I think that's 8. So these appear to slide. So I'm going to just put the 8 in there. Okay, little printing error. Right, okay, so they must be how they got in and out of the cockpit. I guess they slide down into the cockpit. Not really terribly sure, if I'm honest. But anyway, installing that in steps 18 and 19 means that in step 20 we can bring the fuselage halves together. So it doesn't show that process, but we appear to have done that. I mean, it's not one piece. Yeah, 19, 20. So we've got the 2 fuselage halves. They're not showing the numbers for that, but they are telling us we've got some plastic parts to put in. And that we need to cut an opening for the landing skid. And there's a little photo etched loop to go on. And then there's this number 5 here, this part going in. But I don't think we've see, look, I hadn't noticed, but in the background when we were talking about these parts, that's in the fuselage. So you're gluing it into the fuselage at that point and then bringing the fuselage together. Right. Step 21, we're building up the tail, and we've got 2 options for the windscreen. Doesn't tell you particularly what the options are, or what drives those options, but we'll have a look at the paint scheme. That might give us a clue. Step 23, finishing the tail. Step 24, building up the wheels. So separate 2 hub halves going either side of a separate tyre, which will make painting nice and easy. 23, we're installing the flaps which are mounted onto Photo-etched. Blimey, that will be interesting. I'm putting the rudder on there. Step 25, we're building up the framework for the wheels. That takes 3 steps to do that, and then we've got more wire that we've got to pull together, and then we add some plastic parts on each end of the wire. Yeah, which are 2 little frameworks, one that goes here behind the wheels and the other one that goes here behind the skid. I'm guessing we've got some form of bracing wires going onto those eventually. And when I look at this picture here, these Photo-etched that I thought we were mounting the flaps onto are actually sitting proud, so it's actually within. Yeah, so that's not going to be as difficult to build as I thought. Then we've got an optional gun and gun sight, optional gun and gun sight going on. Some more. Part 39 to be used only for catapult version. Okay, well, we are doing the fleet air arm version in this, so I guess we will need those. Some tiny parts going on. Then with the lower part of the aircraft built, we've got struts going on. It's telling us we need to make some struts out of styrene rod. Okay, interestingly, I don't know whether they've supplied the styrene rod. Definitely not a kit for the novice, because you're having to go to stock of scratch building parts. So definitely a kit for the experienced builder. Step 35 has us building up some Photo-etched, which appears to be mechanism for operating the gun. Provide the same sequence for the part 10 mirrored. Yeah, so we have to do it twice. Then a mounting frame, and you can see here it all coming together. So we've got kit part, got the mechanism, we've got the framework. Then we put in a resin gun on there, so that goes on either side. So the whole gun is just mounted on a tray either side of the fuselage. So that's crude, isn't it? Then we're putting the top wing on. I've just got a feeling that that's going to be a lot of fun and maybe some foreign language practice involved in that. Don't tell me how. Yeah. Step 41, and we put the engine on that we built in the first few steps. So clearly you don't need to do the engine until right near the back end of the build. So why did they have you build it first? I don't know. Then we've got the propeller going on and some Photo-etched detailing around that as well. And then we've got an exhaust going on, which is also resin, one on each side. Step 42 is a somewhat basic rigging plan. So we've got some rigging there on the wings, not overly complex, and then this shot here underneath. I'm just going to zoom you in for this. The shot underneath shows you some bracing wires between the wheels as well, and on the wing. So yeah, you've got quite a bit to do. By looking at it, I reckon elastic rigging is probably the way to go. Anyway, that's it. 42 steps, but it does look complex and there is some scratch building involved. So let's take a look at our paint instructions. So our painting instructions are in colour, and it tells us we've got a late production with a Jaguar engine, which it hasn't told us anywhere else in the build, so we're learning something there. It's calling out 3 different paint systems: Humbrol, Hataka, and AK Real colours. There is no blanks in there, so there's a colour for everything. And what have we got? 2, 4, 6, 8 different colours being called out here. Looks like we've got decal numbers here. And this is for HMS Furious 32 to 33. Quite a nice one, this. They're not showing you a top view or a bottom view, they're just showing you a side view. Ah, look, right, okay. Separate sheets, right. Okay. Okay, we'll work through it. So we've got 2 images there for, oh no, 1 image for Furious 32-33. Then we've got an image for Furious 33. Paint scheme is pretty much the same, only there's the change there of the tail. It's a bit like Spot the Difference, this, isn't it? So you've got this black bit here, which is silver on this one, and you've got silver and red spars rather than all black. Some differences there on the supports, but yeah, yeah. So that it looks like these are optional decals here, the little strips. So that's handy. We've got a tail decal, 2 decals for the stripe on the tail. Then the registration numbers there is a decal. Then this 3rd one here, so we've got 3 paint schemes, is HMS Glorious 1930. And again, it's showing us some decal locations, and we've got a hint of yellow on here. When we turn over, oh, 1, 2, 3, we've got 6 paint options. Okay, which wasn't clear from the box, certainly. So we've got Glorious 32, so different again. There's more colour on the wing struts mainly, and on the tail there. A few more decals. Then we've got this blue one, which isn't shown on the side of the box. I don't think. No, we have the red and the yellow, definitely. And this is HMS Courageous 32. And then HMS Courageous Mediterranean 32. And the main difference appears to be the wing struts. Otherwise, pretty much the same. Pen and number, the number changes. Yeah, interesting. Right, then we go back to paint scheme 1 for top and bottom view. So right, I'm going to do this paint scheme. You've got 1 side view. I'm guessing it's mirrored, and then you've got a top and bottom view, which shows these lovely red wing tips. It's quite pretty, that, isn't it? And then scheme 2, you don't have so much. You've just got the stripe, but you've got a difference in the shape of the stripe there. Scheme 3, I think the black stripes are decals by the looks of it, but not the yellow stripe in the middle. Okay, but you do have the decal for this big joining thing here. That all looks good. So, and then paint scheme 4. So that just marries that up. All very nice. And then paint scheme 5 is on here. Okay, so it's a little bit of an odd way of doing it, but you can work it out. Yeah, quite a broad stripe, that. And pretty much the same, only you've got these red identification boxes underneath on the Mediterranean version. And then, and then finally, we've got, in addition to the decals that you've put on for your chosen paint scheme, we've got stencils. So we've got comprehensive decals here. We've got underside stencils, the usual ones that you see on the wings, you know, don't walk here and that sort of stuff. Then we've got just 2 stencils for the top of the aircraft. Then I'm guessing that's inside of the top wing, so the undersurface is what I'm guessing. Then we've got some for the struts, we've got some for the tyre, we've got some around the lifting hooks and bits and pieces, and on various struts. Oh yeah, there's plenty of decals here. And then on this side we've got some on the tail, and yeah, okay, plenty of decals here. Yeah, very nice. So shall we have a look at the decals next? So there's no branding on these. We have 2 decal sheets. They were in with the bag along with the acetate and the Photo-etched. So they've been nicely protected because there's a hard board in there. They were floating around upside down though, which worries me a little bit. So I'm going to keep them separate, I think, and put them in the bottom of the box face down. Like I say, no brand on there, so it looks like either Armoury have done them themselves or most likely outsourced them within Ukraine. But yeah, no manufacturer's mark on there, so it could be they've done them themselves. So there is some margin. They're not, you know, they're not got the finesse of cartograph, and they feel a little thick. But not as thick as Tamiya ones, so somewhere in between. Yeah, but they're nice and sharp. Colour saturation is good, and there is no issues with misalignment. Yeah, I don't have any particular issues with those. So if we get those up close for you, you can see they're nice and sharp. I think they could be a bit more vibrant. They look a little on the pale side, but you can see we've got all sorts of little markings there to help you out. That's the covers for the wheels, so that's nicely done if it settles okay. And then our various different markings. So all clearly numbered. Yeah, I don't have any issues with those. Let's have a look at this set here. So we've got the tail colours, so you could easily mask those off, you don't need to use those, but we've got the tail colours, and then we'd have other decals that go on top. We've got our roundels common to all. Oh, I have found a manufacturer's mark. There you go. So yeah, they are Ukrainian. It's the same brand that ICM use, so there will be decent decals. And then we've got the stripes that you need for your masked off painted stripes on the fuselage there, and nice little decals for all the lifting hooks and bits and pieces. Yeah, I don't have any issues with that. And we even have Fairey Flycatcher as a decal, so you can always do something with a little nameplate or something around that. That is all good. Have no issues with that. Even the little notices are nicely printed. Yeah, lovely. Right, so let's have a look at acetate next. So we have a small acetate sheet which has our dials on for the cockpit, and then we have our 2 windshields, which means we're going to have a lovely scale effect for those. They won't be thick and chunky, but what they will be instead is fiddly, because you're probably mounting them into a bit of photo etch that you've got to get curved right. So once again, I'm going back to not a beginner's model by any stretch of the imagination, but some nice detail in there. Nicely printed as well. Really well done. So thoughtfully, Armoury have taped our Photo-etched to a board, so it's not moving anywhere, and I don't want to take it off, so we're going to leave it there. Now, I'm fairly sure in the instructions I saw 2 lots of Photo-etched, so I'm just going to check that. Yeah, 2. So this one here is not mentioned in the instructions at all, and it is the seat harness, and we do have in with the Photo-etched, we do have a little instruction piece of paper which has the harness Photo-etched, gives us the numbers and shows us how to use them, and it tells us that part 3 should be bent as shown, so it's basically making a little part of the belt. So I mean, really nice. Obviously this has been added after they first developed the kit, because it's no mention of it in the instructions. So yeah, so we've got 2 different types of propeller ring. So let's see if we can get that focused. And basically the difference is the number and pattern of the fasteners. We've got nice relief Photo-etched harnesses, which are very nice and detailed. Give them a quick heat up so you can bend them into shape. Really nice. Take the springiness out. Then here we can see our Photo-etched for the windshields. Various other parts that we saw in the instructions. Very delicately done. There is a little bit of relief Photo-etched. The main bit being on the dials here, the instrument panel, which is very nicely done. So you can see there, instrument panel really nicely done. But yeah, lovely. And there's our little sliding doors. So a little bit of ammunition visible at the bottom there. Yeah, and yeah, that's going to be nice to work with. It's not too thick, and it's quality. It's not cheap and nasty. So yeah. Now this says copyright 2019. We've already seen copyright 2020. So I reckon the kit must have been released around about that time. All of these Photo-etched say copyright 2019 on. So I reckon it's a 2020 kit originally. But there you go. So I'm not going to take a photograph of that. You can pause the video if you want to take a detailed look at it. But yeah, that's really nice. Plastic parts now, and no surprise here for a small manufacturer. You know, this is sort of cottage industry stuff. There is quite a bit of, well, we go from heavy seam to outright flash. Some of the parts are quite flashy, but putting that to one side, because flash is easy to clean up, and anyone who started modelling like I did in the 70s or earlier is well used to cleaning flash off parts. What we've got is some really nice detail. We've got raised rivet detail on the tail parts here. Yeah, very nice. And we've got some nice little detail on the interior parts, some texturing. If I turn it over, you can see we've got texturing on both sides. Yeah, there's some sink in the propeller blade there, but I think, can't remember which one we use, but I think the worst sink is in the one we're not using. I think we don't use the pointed one. I think I'm right in that. In which case the sink is facing backwards, but it's on a flat area, so easy to sort out. Most of this is just scrape clean, and away we go. Some of these parts are very thin and delicate, and clean up will be interesting, to put it one way. Plastic seems quite hard, so in fact I'm just gonna see how hard the plastic is. Oh yeah, plastic's going to be nice to work with, actually. Really nice. Yeah, which is good because we've got a lot of seam cleanup on delicate little parts like that, which will be interesting, challenging for some, let's be fair. I mean, there's quite a bit of flash around these parts here, so a lot of very careful, dedicated cleanup. I suspect you're going to spend as much time cleaning up parts as you are painting them and building them up. Yeah, I'm not sure that I don't see any issues with broken parts. Some of the sprue gates are a little bit chunky, but again, given the maturity of the manufacturer, that's not a surprise either. Our propeller spinner is quite flashy as well. You just have to be careful that you're not damaging the part as you clean up, but otherwise okay. Like I say, you expect some flash on a, I mean, if this was Airfix, we're going it's dreadful, but it's not Airfix. It's a small manufacturer in Ukraine, and they're starting out, and this is what you get. And we see this a lot with Ukrainian kits and manufacturers, and ICM and Mini Art have got better at it as they've got bigger. So yeah, I don't have any real problems with these. You know, we've talked about the challenges, clean up and delicate parts, but the plastic seems sufficiently hard to be able to take it, so I've got no worries. So yeah, let me just hold that up and we'll zoom in, and you can just pause it if you want to take a closer look. Our next sprue has tail and wing flaps, and again we've got some flash, but more importantly, you know, these are single parts. We're not having to sandwich them together, and there's no sink or anything like that on them. And again, we've got raised rivets, have we? All right, we've got raised detail, but I think we've got countersunk rivets, which might be correct, but I'm not sure. I'm trying. No, actually, we have got raised rivets. They're just really subtle. Yeah, very subtle raised rivets. They're a bit more pronounced on the tail area. So yeah, very nice actually. No imperfections on this, and actually less flash than we saw on the last sprue. So it's just a seam scrape, and you're away. And there is texturing. I can feel it under my finger, but you know, there is you can feel the ribs, so yeah, I have no issues with that either. Very nice. Right, and next sprue, and we've got the two wings and the flaps, which in this instance I think were the ones not used, if I remember rightly, which is handy because this one here is short shot. Can you see the unevenness of the edge there and there? So quite handy we're not using these ones. Yeah, but the wings are good, and again we've got raised rivets and subtle raised rib details, plus some other details as well. All looks really nice. Yeah. Solid wings, no issues with sink or anything like that, and no flash on these either. So there's a bit of seam cleanup, but it's just a quick whip round. So not bad at all, actually. Yeah, I like that. Our final sprue has our two fuselage halves. Gives you an idea of the overall length of the aircraft. Quite a short aircraft, I think a bit smaller than the Bulldog, actually. So we've got our two halves, the underside bit there. We've got some struts, wheel hub fronts and backs, tyres, that little section of the tail again with raised fasteners. Same with the tail sections here, raised fasteners. It's a bit flashy again, so we're going to have to do some clean up. It's very, very thin. The plastic is really thin on this, to the point where I can see through it. Don't know if you can pick that up on the camera. You see that light colour there? It's quite translucent, it's that thin. But yeah, very nicely done. There's no inside detail, but the framework was built up separately. Detail on the fuselage halves is nice. We've got this stretched material look going into this metal panelled area here. Again, all raised rivets on here. Very nicely done. A little bit of sink on the forward face. But that's going to get covered up by the engine, so I'm not worried about that. Yeah, it's a bit scrappy on the front. But yeah, we can clean that up easy enough. Yeah, very nice actually. And then we've got the seat here, which has got padded detail. You can see there. I mean, it would be a wicker back, I would have thought. Might be you want to swap that out for something like a gecko seat or something like that. I don't know what that seat would look like, but it does look more like the First World War style seat, doesn't it? Yeah, I think once you've cleaned the flash off, no real issues. Things don't seem distorted. The plastic is quite chunky. There's no location pins or anything like that, which means you're probably gonna have an easier job getting the two fuselage halves together. I would take one off and just try the two halves, but we've got sprue gates there which are going to foul it, so it would probably be doing the kit a disservice to do that. But yeah, yeah, there's a little bit of, if you see here, you can make out this little panel which opens, and then on here we have it again, but it sort of disappears on this side. So there's a little bit of scribing work to do. Again, nothing major. Yeah, that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. So that's our plastic parts done. Let me just get you close to those. See all that lovely texturing. Really nice. So that finally leaves us with our resin parts, and there's quite a collection of somewhat delicate resin parts here. So as you can see, there's a fair amount of cleanup to do, but the film on resin parts is always very thin. It's like very fine tissue paper. It just breaks away under a sharp knife, so we don't need to worry about it. A little bit of careful removing from the sprue, the casting blocks. Again, the way to do it is to remove the casting connection points as far away from the part as you can, and then go in and slowly clean it up. Let's just have a look at this engine hub first. Just get my camera to focus. There you go. And this is largely just a mount for all of those pistons, but you can see there's some nice countersunk fastener detail on there. Really, really fine moulding. It's very nicely done. You just got to remove the casting block from the bottom. I don't see any imperfections or anything in it. Very, very nice. Okay, and then that is going to have these piston cases go on. We've got 3 sets of these, and again, the detail is lovely. It's nice and crisp. Looks good. Yeah, no problem with that. They're really nice, actually. Very, very nice, and should be easy to, you can clean these up on the block, paint them on the block, and then just remove them and glue them on. Brilliant. So that's those. These are the exhausts, one for each side. Just go down the side of the aircraft and taking the exhaust behind the pilot. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Nice and crisp. No issues with distortion or anything like that. It's nicely moulded. Just a bit of cleanup. And these bits here, not quite sure. I think these build up on the engine. I think this is connecting pipe work because we've got 2 sets of these. So yeah, really nicely cast, extremely delicate. The connection points are almost bigger than the actual part. So again, going in underneath with your razor saw and then gently cleaning up. They will be tricky because of the shape of them. You'll have to be very careful not to break those. But really nice. Then we've got our 2 side-mounted guns. One of them, I think, is slightly bent. This one here, I think, you can see the barrel's slightly bent. So you just need to put that in a bit of just over tepid, so warm water, and put them in to soak, and then after a minute or 2, you should be able to straighten that up. So yeah, just jig it up and straighten it, and it should then cool and hold its shape. So the detail on those is nice, crisp. Yeah, no issues with those. As good as any you'd get those. I'm not quite sure what these 2 little tiny parts are. I missed them in the instructions, but they say Jaguar on them, so they are part of the engine build-up. Then we've got our exhaust ring, 2-part. So we've got 2 of these. Again, really fine, finer than you could do in plastic moulding. So you have a thick section and then they thin down and they curve around here. So again, some really careful cleanup. But I think this is 3D printed resin. You can see how it narrows as it connects. So hopefully shouldn't be too difficult to take off. Really impressed with the resin parts, actually. Very nice. And we have 2 of those. And again, no issues. Even the location point is nice and clear. So other than a bit of cleanup, no great issues. And then we've got 4 lots of these, whatever these are. I don't remember seeing them in the instructions. And again, it says Jaguar, so there's some part of the engine assembly. So the engine is very, very detailed. Right, let's sum up, shall we? So there you have it, the Armoury Models Group Fairey Flycatcher late production British interwar aircraft carrying fighter. Not aircraft carrying, aircraft carrier fighter. That's a completely different thing. What's my first impression? Well, I'm pleasantly surprised. First thing I mentally do when being faced with a small manufacturer's kit is lower my expectation. I expect there to be some issues with it. I expect there to be issues with parts being warped. You think Rodin, and that's sort of where my mindset goes to. This is going to have some challenges, you know it. So you go into it open-minded about how that's going to be. And by doing that, you can only be pleasantly surprised, or you're meeting expectation. And this kit is one of those that is a pleasant surprise. So let's go through the process. Packaging is really good. We've got a nice sturdy box, really lovely, colourful, eye-catching box art, which the quality of it is sort of photographic. It looks like a photo. It really is very, very nicely done. Perhaps not enough information on the box because it's telling us we've got 2 paint schemes when actually we had 6 in there. So they're underselling themselves a little bit. So, you know, you wouldn't get Edward not doing that. It's a fairly small box, so they were probably limited, but they could say 6 paint schemes, something like that on there. So yeah, packaging, all good in the main. Nice and robust, and then you've got Ziploc bags which are nice and reusable, and even when you finish building the kit you can put them in your little stash of plastic bags so that when you're building another kit you can separate them into their into separate bags when that manufacturer didn't bother. So yeah, nice packaging. Then instructions. Instructions in the main, clear, little bit of written instruction. I would say that there are a little bit of challenge on the flow. You want to study them and make some decisions before you do anything with the build. I'm not sure I'm going to mess around with that delicate engine before I need to, so I don't think I'd be building that at the start. And have a look at when you want to rig some of those elements as well. But other than that, I think they were fairly clear, and you know, they'd broken it down into small logical steps in the main. So I had no great issue with the instructions. That they were nice and clear, just a bit basic, but that's not a problem at all. It doesn't call out paint instructions as you go, so particularly for the inside of the cockpit you need to do a little bit of research, so that there's a sort of a point off type of thing. But yeah, otherwise well done. Decals, really nice, don't have an issue with the decals, well printed, no issues with register. Possibly a little bit dull in the colour for my taste, but that could be accurate, but I think they're a bit on the dull side personally. But plenty of decals, you know, they've not done us sold us short. We've got stencils as well as the markings, nicely produced. So yeah, I was very happy with that. Then we get onto the plastic parts. I mean, the obvious thing is that there was quite a bit of flash on them, so there's quite a bit of cleanup. But other than that, we dodged a short shot issue. So actually, no issues with the plastic parts that you're going to use. And some nice detail. All the rivets being raised, which is really nice. People are divided on raised rivets because it can cause you issues with decals, especially if you're fairly new to the hobby. Settling the decals over all those rivets will be much more time consuming. However, it will be more realistic. So, you know, people are always divided on that, and it's your view is your view. But I quite like them in this instance because there's not too many of them, and it's not overdone. Some nice texturing, again, not overdone, but gives you the feel for the aircraft, which ultimately is what we're trying to do when we build the model. Yeah, and some nice little thoughts like doing the tyre separately so it's easy to paint, that sort of thing. And decals that allow you to do your own painting on things like the stripe there, but then they finish you off with the difficult bits. So some nice thought had gone into that process. The paint shout outs that they give you, the call outs I should say, yeah, I mean all brands that are commonly used and therefore easy to cross-reference, so I had no issues with that particularly. So yeah, all in all, other than the cleanup, I didn't have any great issues with the plastic parts, and then they're supplemented by the photo-etched parts. And whilst I admit that photo-etch isn't for everybody, a good proportion of that photo-etch you could miss off and it wouldn't detract from the build. So particularly in the cockpit, a lot of that you probably won't see, but it is going to add some real finesse on things like the carriages under the guns. That'll really look nice and give you a nice scale effect on the wings. It won't be too chunky, and we'll just have that finish. Although I think many modelers might find the windscreen solution a bit finicky, but we'll come back to that in a moment. So yeah, the photo etch was well done, release etch when needed, good material, not too thick, but so thin enough for scale, but not too thin, so it's got rigidity and what have you. So no issues with those. And then of course we have the resin parts, which look to me like they're 3D printed. The detail is fine, the production of them is fine. There's a fair amount of cleanup to do, and there's a lot of them, and they're very delicate. And that's the bigger issue. There's a lot of delicate parts, but the parts themselves are very finely crafted, and I have no issues with them. So yeah, all in all, a very nice kit. And it takes me by surprise, because I was expecting to have more issues than there actually is. The only real issue is the quality of the plastic moulding, and all that's doing is making you have to do a bit more scraping than you would do on, you know, a new tooled Airfix kit, for example. So actually, it's all right. It's very nice, and the subject matter, you know, small manufacturers can do subject matter that other manufacturers wouldn't touch with a barge pole, because it just doesn't have enough legs in it. But clearly they designed this with different releases in mind. Fairey Flycatcher, having done a little bit of reading around it, has some variations, so we might see those in the future. But all in all, my first Armoury kit, I'm impressed. I'm certainly in a position where if I saw something else that they'd made that caught my eye, I wouldn't go, but it's Armoury. I'd go, oh yeah, no, I'm up for that. I would certainly buy into their kits. If this is the standard they're doing, they can only improve, can't they, as they go forward and refine their processes. So very, very nice kit. Hope that was interesting, and you now know a bit more about Armoury models and the Fairey Flycatcher. So you enjoy your modelling, and I will see you very soon. Bye for now. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so. It's free, and that way you won't miss my first impressions, my tool reviews, my product reviews, and any of my builds, including wooden model kits as well as plastic. It's all free, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can hit my PayPal link in the text below. Every pound goes straight into the channel to keep the cameras rolling and to do more fun stuff for you to watch.